Hello, and welcome to another edition of Why Are You Laughing at Me with Gherkin Picklewater. Today I'm joined by Enoch Scott. Enoch, can you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Hi, my name is Enoch Augustus Scott. I'm a performer in Las Vegas. Currently, I'm the star of Zombie Burlesque, running at the V Theater, Planet Hollywood Miracle Mile. But I also sing around town and stuff like that.
We saw you this October at Zombie Burlesque, and were blown away by the show. It was so good, and you were wonderful. And MC is part of what I do as a performer, and watching you do that with such panache and flow and seeming ease was inspiring and really impressive. And that's why we wanted to get you on the show because you made such an impact.
Oh wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I've been doing it for 12 years, that particular show, but I've been talking in Las Vegas for a living since 2002, so I hope I have gotten good at it.
Well, you got your 10,000 hours in easily.
For sure.
Um, what brought you to comedy in the first place?
Um, in retrospect, I assume the same thing that brings everyone to comedy, which is trauma. Um, so I don't know. I just um have always found it easier to laugh about things and to poke fun at things. It's probably like I said, a masking tactic for trauma. But even as a kid, I grew up in the classic. We all think our era of SNL is the classic era, but I would stay up late to watch SNL because I love Dana Carvey's Church Lady, um, and I was a big fan of stand-up comedy early on. I was raised by a single mom, so I really gravitated towards female comedians. A widowed mother, I should say, who remarried eventually. I had stepfather and stuff, but uh, and I again, we all think our childhood is the best era. But I grew up with a lot of fantastic female, like Paula Poundstone, Ellen DeGeneres getting her start, Judy Tenuto, even Roseanne Barr, all of that first real, crop of female comedians after like Phyllis and Joan Rivers sort of paved the way. Um, so a lot of my comedic influences come from recording back in the day. We used to take our VCR and record the things that we liked off of HBO. And so I would record SNL episodes, I would record stand-up comedian specials. I became obsessed with Paula Poundstone, who is really an incredible comedic influence of mine. Um, and any little stand-up special I could find her on or whatever, I would record and watch over and over again and show it to my friends. And I can still quote some of her um, stand-up specials from the 80s and some of her bits and stuff. And I have a feeling if she came and saw me perform, she would be like, "Hey, I think I recognize that line." Uh, so that's what drew me to comedy, I guess. Trauma is the short answer. Final answer.
Wonderful. I mean, not wonderful that it's trauma, but wonderful answer. Yeah, Judy Tenuta. Wow, I haven't thought about her in a long time. We're of the same era, I think.
Yeah.
You and I.
Judy, it was really that era also of like Sam Kinison,
Mm-hmm.
that where the personality was a lot of so it was a great era of like, Paula Poundstone just being jokes. But like Stephen Wright, where it was all about delivery, great jokes too, but
Mm-hmm.
his delivery, like I'll never forget his joke. Everywhere is within walking distance if you have enough time.
Nice.
Um, Funny, right?
Yeah.
But his delivery and in context of his whole set and stuff, just really brilliant. So it was a great era to be a young person interested in comedy because there were um the Sam Kinnisons and the Judy Tenutos, even Rita Rudner, a little bit about the delivery, but
Mm-hmm.
also really solid jokes too. So um yeah, Judy Tenuto was a classic, man.
Judy and emo, like
Oh,
alternate
I
sides of
forgot
the
about
same
Emo
coin.
Philip. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's another classic. They kind of don't make them like that in America anymore,
yeah.
where it really was a character. Even Pee Wee Herman, to some extent,
Hmm.
Paul Rubens
Yeah.
created this character that was in itself funny. And so you could just blah 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 and you would laugh. And Emo Phillips was that's another. Yeah, they created these. I think it was probably inspired by, oh, I'm gonna forget his name, Andy Kaufman or whatever. Like,
Yep.
wasn't he
Yep.
doing a lot of that sort of really surreal,
Hmm.
creating
Absolutely.
characters, testing boundaries? And now we see it in. I hate to get so analytical, but
No,
that's what
that's
we're
what
here
we're here
for.
for.
Um, but you can see it in like Sacha Baron Cohen,
Absolutely.
those influences of creating this character and going into the real world and testing boundaries. And Andy Kaufman did a lot of that.
So how
Uh,
much? Sorry, don't mean to interrupt, but
no,
how
go
much
ahead.
of what you're doing as the role that you have in zombie burlesque, for instance, is a reflection of you, and how much of it do you think falls to character?
Um, I think he, he is so different than me. Xenoc, who's the name of my character in Zombie Burlesque, the host character. They just put a Z in front of my name. Um, Cause zombie. I think he is very different than I am. I am, classic, um, Tears of a Clown, classic extrovert, introvert. In my real life, I'm pretty introverted and keep to myself and, just want to learn my Duolingo at the gym. Um, but I, I've, but I love, there's nothing I love more than standing center stage and having people stare at me and listen to me and looking into people's eyes and talking to them. There's nothing I love more. I never am feel more safe or more at home than I'm when I'm doing that. And uh so it's and he says things that I don't think I would ever say or could get away with. Like as Enoch. But with the zombie makeup and in that setting and stuff, um, so I really, it's like a coat I put on, a very comfortable coat at this point. And then, but it's certainly not how I approach my daily life.
It's something that as a performer, I'm a clown, do some improv, but mainly do theatrical clown. But
I'm
I
not
do
going to lie to you, that clown painting on your wall is terrifying. Go
other
ahead.
three of them. There, yeah.
The
The
one
one
in
in
the
the middle
middle
is
is
scary.
super
Yeah.
John Wayne Gacy, but go ahead.
Um, but as a clown, and do MC work on occasions. Is I strive for that level of dysregulation that Xenox seems to have, where he can say things that I would never say. And as an MC, I haven't found that level of comfort in my MC persona to to be able to slide into that level, and not necessarily those specific things, but just to open myself up to the improvisational forces to that degree. It's different when you're doing actual improv because it's expected, but as an MC, it's hard for me to find the boundaries
Yeah. Well,
of what's acceptable.
I'm hosting a burlesque show, so the my boundaries are, a little bit more free, but also I have a rule about never, I really try never to punch down. Um, um, and so I love making fun of white people because I can. And but I really and I'm a Buddhist and it's an enormous part of my life. And I spend a half hour a day in two different chunks, prant chanting and and really thinking about my humanity and other people's humanity is and blah blah blah. So I really do try to lead from love. And so if I can I say titty on this?
Yeah, yeah, you can say whatever you like.
So, for example, one of the things I do, one of the first things I say when I go out in the audience, I'll find someone with big titties. I'm like, oh my God, you got big titties. Are you okay? Do you want some Advil? Do you want two midgets to help carry me around? Do you want an AV cart? So, what I'm saying is, I mean, if you just walked up to a woman and said, hey, you got big titties, you might get slapped, or I'm a gay guy, so I can get away with shit. But, and people kind of know me at this point. But if you did that to a random stranger, you might end up in the clink for the night or whatever, or knocked out. But in that setting and in that space and in the way that I'm doing it, it is out of concern and love. And so doesn't come across as lascivious or gross or creepy. And one of the things that I have discovered I've been doing this I've been acting since I was like 11, doing shows and stuff. I went to, college for theater. And I've been working in Vegas since 2002. And I've learned that like likability is some people have it and some people don't. And that audience has to love you when you're up on that stage. And
You,
if they love you, you can get away with shit.
you have to have presence and connection. Yeah.
Yeah, and really I'm I learned a great trick about how to engage an audience a long time ago, which is that you have to make as much actual eye contact with as many people as you can um, over the course of however long you're speaking to them. Look people directly in their eyes. And I think there's some sort of, if you stare somebody in the eye for 3 seconds, you either want to fight them or fuck them. And so you have to be willing to look directly into the eyes of as many as people as you can. And if you can't see them, you have to imagine looking at them if they're at the back of the house or whatever. Um, and because if you make actual eye contact with people, it will get them on your side. And I've seen it happen. I've seen people soften. I've seen people come in like this, women a lot of times, or even men, because, it's a burlesque show. And they're like, oh, I don't want to watch these young girls take off their clothes or whatever. And to look them directly in the eye and give them a joke or give them a tagline or something, I've seen people soften and I've watched their body posture go from this to by the end of the show having a great time or whatever. I've seen it happen in real time, so I know it works. And that vulnerability, I think, being able to look at somebody in the eye directly and engage with them, having that vulnerability is one way of creating likability. And my big thing is that I'm just kind of like an open wound up there. Like I'm very accessible, I'm very vulnerable, and I think audiences sense that and relate to that, but also realize that I'm not threatening. And the last thing you want in a host for a titty show is someone that creeps you out or is threatening.
Absolutely.
You really want someone who I just saw Chippendales recently, and the host is an old friend of mine who isn't really a talker. He's a dancer, really trained in dance all his life. His parents were in Jubilee, but he's had to do some emceeing and zombie, and he's a charming, likable person in general in his life. And his hosting skills were just top notch. Like not the funniest guy in the world, not joke after joke after joke, but for hosting Chippendales, it was perfect. It was opening, it was charming, it was a little cheeky, and the women didn't feel uncomfortable or intimidated or freaked out that they're at a male strip show, because there was a sort of charm and vulnerability and realness to him. So especially for the job that I do, I have to be extra careful about just not making the experience any more uncomfortable than it's can already be to watch a show where women go down to their pasties or I slap my face with a dildo or et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. The so many of the things you said are just excellent tips for anyone in our industry. Especially the eye contact. That's not something that had never been shared with me. That's not something I discovered on my own yet. So that's something I will personally put into practice.
Yeah,
But
and it helps you stay present as well, because sometimes we get so in our head. And when I've been doing the same show for 12 years, so I can get in it becomes a mental game. Um, but it whenever I find myself getting lost in my head, to stay present, I will look at somebody because it helps ground you in this moment.
yeah,
And at the end of the day, whenever we get new people on stage and or new people in the cast rather, and they're not actors, they're dancers maybe, but they have to deliver a line. But also, zombie in general requires a bit of acting. Um, and I just like at the end of the day, we're just human beings talking to each other, which we do all day long.
yeah.
It's just in a different setting with lights and a little bit heightened, and you got to support and know your timing and stuff. But at the end of the day, we are just human beings having conversations. And when you
And
really break it down like that, I think it helps you the mystique and the fear and blah 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 can melt away.
yeah, it's
And
kind
you
of
realize
evaporate.
that you're just a human being talking to other human beings. And if you're generally speaking a funny person, you are generally speaking going to be funny.
Um,
And it helps if you've got some material.
yeah.
But otherwise, just smile and offer yourself up in that moment, because like we're all here for a purpose. We all have a purpose on this planet. And like ideally part of that the end result of that purpose helps make other people happier or helps make this world a better place. That no matter what you do, be it from not to sound like Martin Luther King, but if you're a garbage man, that helps the world. That makes people happier. I'm so much happier that I don't have garbage, you know, building up on my back porch. Um, so, and I, that's not necessarily my calling, but my calling is to stand on that stage and for an hour and 15 minutes or whatever, make people's lives a little bit better on this, world of suffering.
Well, I think the way
So,
that something we talk about a lot on this podcast, or we have talked about a bit, is that by being the person putting yourself, by being someone who invites people to laugh at them, you are bringing those people together as a community, as a tribe, as a pack. You're giving them a sense of, at least in that moment, cohesion and solidarity, and that breeds a feeling of strength and health
yeah.
within them, at least in that moment.
Laughing
Um,
is super healthy for the body. I feel so
yeah.
lucky because I do get to laugh every night. I feel like it's probably helped me healthier than I might have otherwise been.
Oh, I think I lost about 5 or 6 years of age when I started going to clown school. It has been tremendous for my skin. You talked about vulnerability, and you talked about well, let's talk about vulnerability. Vulnerability is a huge part of our background as clowns. That's a big part of where our comedy comes from. But you also talked about doing a service in your joke. You're doing a not a disservice, but a service in your joke. You're reaching out from a place of love. You talked about the woman and offering her Advil and so on. That in many ways is reflective of many, again going back to clown. Don't mean to keep harping on that, but in many other cultures, clown archetypes are sacred individuals whose job it is to reinforce taboo by violating taboo,
Right.
by getting out there and teaching the people in their community what is and is not acceptable within the community through these humorous interactions. And in those two things that you mentioned, they both correlate to clown in a lot of ways. To what degree do you see, is there a correlation between what you're doing in clown, or do you see it as completely different things?
I think they're all related, but I did a little bit of Commedia dell'arte back in my high school days. Um, and uh, and I start off. It's so funny because there used to be. Did you see the show with Tiny Bubbles in it? The first time you saw it was October.
October, yeah.
There used to be uh, a drag queen, clown, magician kind of
No, I
person.
I didn't see
He was
them.
one of the specialty acts. Um, named Tiny Bubbles. And I start off in whiteface and then I paint on the blacks and the purples and my contouring. So he's like, "Oh, I love that you start off in white because it's like a clown. I mean, I really am like, um, so just in like, I just the way I paint my face, I think it goes back to clown traditions and commedia dell'arte traditions and, miming and all that kind of stuff. Um, and Mikey and I, who's my comedic partner, the sort of the intrude, I'm Kermit the Frog, and Mikey is Gonzo and Fozzie and all the Muppets in one. Kermit's always trying to keep the lid on the pot, and the pot is, so I'm the order, he's the chaos, right? But also, I get to be chaos when he's off stage. I get to do my own crowd work and be a little crazy. But in terms of the show structure, I'm the one. And so, but I mean, but that goes back to classic vaudeville, which goes back to, which is Laurel and Hardy. I mean, Mikey and I are Laurel and Hardy. It's who's on first, but that's classic vaudeville blackout, two guys on a stage, one of them being the straight guy, one of them being the the comedy. And that goes back to clowning and, the vaudeville traditions and stuff. So, and is it Red? I'm getting so old, but Red Skelton,
Okay.
who he did the mama character, right? But he would also do the clown. And like,
Hmm.
I think he had an HBO special or something that was super influential on me. And I've never been afraid of, to tell you the truth, I was joking about although that painting is kind of scary,
Yeah.
but I've never been afraid of clowns. Like, we've gone to the circus back in the day because I'm of that generation. We went to the circus every year with the elephants and the tigers uh, and the clowns and all that stuff. And I always found it wonderful and magical. Um, and I'm not one of those people who's like, I don't, one clown ever has hurt anybody. Like, I'm afraid of mobsters. That's who I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of the government. I'm afraid of, fascists. That's who I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of clowns. Um, so yeah, I do. Sorry, this is getting.
Good.
But uh, yeah, I do think it is related to. I think they're all related, though. I think anything theatrical, when you pay, I mean, Japanese, no plays.
Yeah.
Anytime you have to put on a face that is not your own, you are, reflecting the great tradition of clowning and commedia dell'arte and all of that stuff. Aracino and what's
Mhm.
the one that starts with a P?
Uh, Poirot.
Yeah, maybe. Um, so yeah, I do think there's, obviously crossover. Uh,
I was reading an article about you from 2020 in it's
oh wow.
on the internet from a newspaper in Vegas, uh, and you're talking about when zombie burlesque was coming into being. And correct me if any of this is incorrect. You were it was you said they were building the plane midair. There wasn't a script coming on, so you just started talking. To what degree is the things that you are saying stuff that have come out of you, and to what degree is it stuff that has been scripted by others?
Um, I That's all true. I did. I literally at one point I was like, well, the show's about to open. They keep on saying they're going to give me a script, and they're not, and they're focused on other things. So I'm just going to start talking. What I told myself was, I'm just going to start talking, and when they don't like what I have to say, they'll tell me to shut up. And so I just started talking, and uh, they realized that I had a skill set, um, and they realized that it was useful. So then it became more of like they had like the eating penis doesn't make you gay song, which happens earlier. They had the idea for the song and the structure of the scene. They just didn't have it scripted really. And like there's a touching speech at the end. They knew they wanted a touching speech, but they didn't know how to write it. They knew they wanted a revival, that final revival speech, but they didn't. So I just proved, it eventually became, hey, I need a touching speech here. Go. Um, so a lot of what I say has been scripted by me,
Okay.
but within the framework that was given to me. And some of
Mhm.
the punchlines directly were given to me,
Yeah.
and then I had to get to them, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And that's very
And
commedia like. Yeah.
and uh and I was anything that did not work or a joke that the producer thought went too far because he's old school Vegas, so he's got real specific taste about what you can say. And also in that environment too, I just can't be like F bomb, F bomb, F bomb, F bomb, F bomb. Um, and I used to tell a joke about the best thing about having sex with a leprechaun is that your penis looks enormous in their hand. And that's an old
Yeah. Yeah.
pedophile joke.
Yeah.
So he knew where the joke was referencing from, so he did not like that joke, even though I had taken it from the realm of
Mhm.
pedophilia. God, please don't let me end up on the Epstein files. Um, so things like that, like I was given, he doesn't really like my DP joke, but I still keep telling it. Um, but so and then the Mikey stuff really developed between me and the actor playing Mikey. Um, and then also if there's a different Mikey in, it has to be sort of because a lot of these are dancers. They're not really actors. They may have some skill at it, but so I kind of have to tailor it to them a lot of time. I don't know which Mikey you saw. Do you have glasses? The Mikey you saw in the beginning, or
I don't recall if he had glasses or not. I do
um,
recall looking it up and not knowing which Mikey I was seeing.
uh, um, at any rate, one a new guy came in and it wasn't really working. And then I was like, well, what if you kind of do an Urkel spin on it? And that was sort of a magic feather for him, Dumbo's magic feather to get him into the character. So a lot of it is you have to work out because the Mikey Xenoc relationship is so important to the show. So sometimes it has to be tailored to that specific individual.
Your interactions were so tight between each other,
You
and
probably saw Curtis. You probably saw
okay,
the Mikey who's been doing it forever, because he and I are like,
yeah, it was really good. It was very reminiscent. His delivery, may seem weird. His delivery was very reminiscent of a lot of buskers that I've seen perform. Specifically, this group called the Sardine Family Circus, which are British British circus people who came to America and were busking for decades. One of them's on Broadway now. But just something about his delivery was really reminiscent of these buskers who had that same kind of energy and intonation. So yeah, he made an imprint on me as well.
uh, right on.
Um, so I asked you about how much of that came out of you because my next question is, what is your framework, your theoretical framework for knowing if something's going to be good before you get it in front of an audience?
Here, I I just to me, comedy is like music, and you just hear it. And I have been doing this for so long and thinking about this for so long. It is instinctual to me. Um, if something is funny, or how to make something funny, or if a line is funny, if a joke works, if a joke doesn't. It may take a while to work it out live, but it's instinctual to me. And I always tell, Mikeys or whatever, if they come like if they're trying to work out a joke that night or something and come to me or something, I'm like, Curtis, one of the Mikeys was having a question of whether or not he thought like a joke about gas prices was still funny because gas prices have come down. I'm like, well, that's kind of an evergreen. You can always joke about gas prices, really. But I was like, if that joke doesn't feel honest to you, stop telling it. But it still works. It's still going to work. I promise you. Like gas is expensive is always going to work. Um, but um, if your instincts are telling you, like, trust your instincts. And so I don't really know if I have a theoretical framework for whether or not something is funny, how I know something. I just know. I just did a new project. I did um Christmas sing along sort of immersive kind of show that toured Florida and the Northeast. And I was the comedic relief character. There were like, three singers, and I sang a little bit, but mostly I was there for comedy, and I was kind of the intrusion character. I was the Mikey, I was the chaos. But the script was written by this fantastic guy he wrote on The Nanny. He's had stuff on Broadway. He's working on the Death Note, the script, the book for the Death Note musical that's in Japan and Korea and coming
Oh,
to the
cool.
West End. So top notch, like writer. And it just showed in his writing. Like you just read it on the page and like, I can make this funny. This is easy. I had it in the first, second rehearsal. I knew how to deliver those lines. And which is frustrating in a rehearsal process because you can't set it on the second day. You really need to be able to play. And so, that's what I always try to push and not try to set anything too early. But, when you've got good writing, you can hear it
Yeah.
in your head like a song. Um, and you know how it's supposed to come out. So that's my answer.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. It's ingrained in you. It's a reflex at this point. I
Yeah.
I don't have that yet. I have the this is why that doesn't work pretty good, pretty clear. This is the small improvement that I would make to that joke. But I've never felt like I could take a director's role. So many people in my industry stop performing because it's hard to make a living at it and go to directing or teaching. And neither of those are things that I feel comfortable with because I don't feel like there's enough to give on my part to make that worth someone else's time. But I have so
Yeah.
much respect for that.
Yeah, no, I can tell you in a second. Like but I wanted to be a director in college, really. I decided on directing by college, but that didn't work out, so I ended up acting. But so much of it is just technical, man. Stand still, don't move too much. Up inflections, um, diction, um, like P's are funny, K's are funny, X's are funny. Like there's some rule of three I'm a super big believer in.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can joke with it and play with it all you want and blah 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 and ka ka ka. But these rules of comedy like are there for a reason because they work.
Yeah. And
Two not funny things and then a funny thing. You either do it three times or you do it as a runner every single time. Like there are just foundational rules to this that you can learn, and then once you learn, you can play with. But I was like this as an actor. I was like, I don't want to learn the Stanislavski method. I think it's stupid, and it's not my how I choose. But somebody once said it's like, well, it's good to learn the rules before you break them. You know what I'm saying? And it's
yeah.
really you don't have to. I tell all the time, like keep it simple, stupid. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like you don't have to go out there, and you're not going to be. I had another great college professor who a voice and acting teacher who was like, the gods are not going to bless you every single night. That's why you have to have technique. So, because if you're lucky enough to do this for a living, if you're lucky enough to do this on a fortunate enough, and do this on a consistent basis, I performed the night that I found out my mother was dead. She had died from complications of a surgery 2,000 miles away in North Carolina. I found out at the gym on my treadmill. I had the show that night. I didn't want to stay at home and be by myself. So I went and did the show. Um, and I have had your car's gonna be in the shop. You know, things are going to happen in your life, but you're going to still have to get on that stage and perform. And you've got to have a solid foundation of knowledge underneath you if you're going to survive those nights. Or if you're going to survive just a Tuesday when maybe you're not into it, or maybe you are into it, but you need a solid technique before you can even hope that the gods are going to come and inspire you on one particular night to be transcendently funny. So,
Absolutely.
and also, the reasons why comedians work out sets or whatever, or clowns work on their bits and stuff, is that as it turns out, the more we do something, we do get better at it. And I hate rehearsing. I like doing.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
really hate rehearsing. But it is valuable. And once you know what you're doing so well that it's second nature, then your soul can truly fly. You know, if you're
Yeah.
not out there like wearing like, what am I going to say next? How's my arm looking? How do I, where should I put how do I stand? What should I say next? If you're not, brain doesn't have to work on that. You're free to really inhabit the experience and
I
have
think
those transcendent moments where you're like, I can't believe I just thought of that thing, or that thing just came out of my mouth, or, yeah.
the dogma where I was trained was very much physicality first, learn all the physical stuff and all the physical skills, and then the character will come from that. A lot of clowns don't work that way, and I also firmly believe that character should come first. But it was really beneficial getting that physical presence to have on stage.
I'm an outside in kind of guy, to tell you the truth. I really believe in like, what does he sound like? What does he walk like?
Okay.
What does he look like? Um, and how is that different than me? And then establishing that, that helps me get to know who the person is.
For me, so much of the character that I do on stage is just a slightly hyperbolic version of myself. Um, there are other characters I do, super characters in improv. You know, the it's this series of traits or aspects or descriptors that make this one kind of character, much like Pee Wee Herman and Paul Rubens. That you can drop into in a scene if you need something to do there. I have super characters like that are very different than me, but a great deal of what I do is just a hyperbolic version of myself. We have a solo show we're taking a Hollywood Fringe this year, along with a duo show as a double feature, and we're working on the duo show right now. And part of what I'm trying to figure out is who that person is. Like I know what they do in the show, I know what they say, I know how they behave, but I don't actually know who they are yet.
Um, yeah, I've always, to me, acting is a verb, and you can't act an adjective, you know, and you can't be funny, you can't be nice, but you can treat someone kindly. You can bring them a glass of water. You can you can put your hand on their shoulder to console them. That performing is a verb, and so you have to look at the actions to, like in life, you judge people by their actions. Like, what are the actions of this person? And also, and I sometimes well, what is your overarching objective? Like, what do I want? Like, what does Enoch want from the evening? He wants to put up, because theoretically, it's the first time the humans are coming to see the zombies. If you listen to the opening narration of the show. Um, so what does Enoch want from the evening? He wants it to go off without a hitch, and he wants the humans to have a good time, so they'll keep on coming to the club. And he doesn't want his zombies to eat the humans. This is what he wants. And so every choice that he makes needs to be driven from that want and that need. And so, all try to keep the lid on Mikey is because I'm trying to get back. I want the show to go well. I don't need this hitch. I don't need this happening. Now the girls are scissor fighting, not like over the leg or whatever. Like, oh my God, I got to go take care of that. Oh my God, I go take care of that. But it's also been great because when stuff goes wrong, which inevitably it does, um, my want and need as a performer are my same as the want and the need of the characters for this show to go off without a
Yeah.
hitch and get over this bump. So I'm able to always be driven from if I have to handle something on the fly, it's driven from what does my character want? And that's a basic, simple, one sentence, I want the show to go off without a hitch. And
Well,
once you understand that, once you've been able to boil down your character's essence to that simple want or need, I'm gonna have to move because um my computer is about to run out of energy. Um, once you've distilled your character's, want or need down to that, then, I think it helps you understand them.
that is classic fundamental acting and comedy advice, and it's great to have it reiterated because it is so easy to let that slip and let all of the detritus and dross get in the way and forget about those core fundamental aspects. Okay, two last questions because you're running out of power and we've been on this for a while. So, who are some of your heroes?
He-Man, Green Lantern. I think Professor X gets a bad rep. Um, uh, comedic heroes, personal
Yeah,
heroes. Daisaku Ikeda is the man who is my mentor in faith for Buddhism. Paula Poundstone and Cat Williams are my comedic heroes. My two big comedic influencers are, as a kid, Paula Poundstone, and then I found Cat Williams later in life, and he is just such an influence on, again, his ability to just say anything or really break things down, and to give his point of view in a funny way, but still a kind of social critique or like any good comedian. Um, so yeah, He-Man, Green Lantern, Daisaku Ikeda, Paul Poundstone, Cat Williams.
wonderful. Uh,
Finally.
last last question, essentially. Is there something, a project you've always wanted to do, but for logistical or financial reasons haven't been able to pursue?
Um, I've always wanted to do a mashup of Chekhov plays, because mostly his plays are all the same play with mostly the same characters. Um, and I really love Chekhov. Um, and I really, I want to, I've always wanted to host a male strip show.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, Chekhov and male strippers.
Very cool. All right, so that about wraps it up. Enoch, what projects are you currently working on, and where can
Oh,
people find your work?
well,
Okay,
of
go ahead.
course, Zombie
Yeah.
Burlesque is running. Who knows when, but check out at the V Theater. We're still running. V Theater, Miracle Mile, Planet Hollywood, Las Vegas. Please come to Las Vegas. Support Vegas. We need you. I'm also working on a children's book called Ninjas Eat Vegetables, which it's you can find it on Instagram under Ninjas Eat Vegetables. I have out the first letter. I'm starting with A for asparagus, and then every 2 weeks I'm going to post a different letter until I eventually have the whole alphabet, and hopefully then have published that after a year of trying to get some footing on Instagram and stuff. So it's a brand new project. Um, I am trying to put together a sort of cabaret of American songbook classics. I'm going to put on a bow tie and a tux and try to be a little bit legit. Um, and but ninjas eat vegetables and zombie burlesque, and you can request to follow me and the Robot Buddha on Instagram. Is the best way to get in touch with me. Enoch Scott, Enoch Augustus Scott is my performing name. And if I could close, I'll close with it's the American Songbook thing. It's so funny. because I try to be legit and I try to put on a tux and just do the thing, but I just people laugh at me. There's a great monologue in Follies, which is a Sondheim show, right before the song "I'm Still Here," which is my favorite song in the show. But the woman who sings the song, Carlotta, delivers this monologue to a group of guys, and she says, "You know, I had a Follies number once. They cut the damn thing in Philadelphia. It was supposed to be a sad song, so I went out there and I gave him sad, and everybody laughed. And then they said, well, sing it sadder. So I went out there and I sang it sadder, and 10,000 people laughed in their seats. What are you going to do?" Um, and I think that kind of like sums up my lot in this particular existence. Like I'm here to make people laugh. And I can try to be serious and shit, but at the end of the day, and I have, deep moments and can certainly move an audience. But so at the end of the day, I'm just here to make people laugh. And I can
Wonderful.
try to fight that, but why bother?
Well, Enoch Augustus Scott, thank you for joining us today. It was wonderful
Thank you
talking
for
to you.
having me. It was great to have a conversation about this. I never
Yeah.
really get to talk about it. So,
And hopefully we'll talk again in the near future. Thank you, sir.
best of luck with your show. Let me know about what you do at the Hollywood Fringe. I'd love to hear
I
about
will.
it.
I will.
Best of luck. If you ever have any
All right.
questions, let me know.
Absolutely.